you guys here yesterday for a panel?
Should have been guilted up, man. Should have been guilted up. Oh, I'm telling you.
Is there anybody who was here yesterday for the panel? And you came back?
Yes.
You're crazy.
I think so.
Did you got one of the prints?
No, I'm not.
Well, since you were here yesterday and you came back today, you get a free print. From our upcoming book, Gateway Runners.
Thank you.
There we go. Enjoy. We'll be giving out a few more throughout the panel.
Hey, Sean, you want to go over or close?
Open's fine. We want people to come in possibly. Okay, guys.
Just go ahead and close yourself.
Will do. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I'm Gene. I run Nerdation Publishing. Our first full book, Gateway Runners, will be out in June. This is our 0 issue. Have any of you seen us on Facebook? You have. All the time. Basically, we printed the 0 issue as a promotion for the first issue. We happen to have 5 left. If you're interested, I'm going to mention this once and then probably 4 times later. We have 5 issues left. These are the last 5 issues of the 0 issue that will ever be available. They're signed by Aaron, and they're signed by Mad Mel, who's the basis for the character on the print. If you're interested in this book during the panel, you can come over and talk to Susie. You get the 0 issue, the print, and their certificate of authenticity, and we're going to mail you a #1 when it comes out in June. And that's $20. If you want it, come up talk to Susie, but that's not what the panel's about. It's about comics. So we're going to go through and introduce ourselves one by one, starting with me. I already did it. Aaron, who are you, and why are you here?
I don't know. I don't know. So, no, my name's Aaron Pierce. I'm the illustrator for the Gateway Runners comic, like Gene said. Also working lettering on Gateway Runners, and another book called Light Earth. I've been creative consultant on several books at this point. Been in the industry about 4 or 5 years down here in Florida, so that's me. Mr. Navarro.
Who are you?
My name is Juan Navarro. I am the editor-in-chief and publisher of Creature Entertainment. I'm also the head writer, and I'm the writer for Rez, which is a story about a detective who uses past lives to solve crimes. This is issue 1. We did a Kickstarter for it that was really successful. I'm also the writer and artist for Zombie Years, post-apocalyptic zombie tale that takes place in Miami. It's like Walking Dead with better weather. I'm the writer and artist on that. I'm the writer-artist also on Tommy. It's a story about a little kid with an imaginary friend who finds out his imaginary friend's a serial killer. Yeah, we're out in Miami. We're also do films. We do various projects. And
my name's Bella. I'm the graphic designer and layout for Visual Adjectives, our publishing and production company. We've been all working together for about 4 or 5 years, and so we do graphic novels, illustrated novels. We run a magazine, children's books. We do the whole shebang. And
I'm Edward Stinson. I am her son, and I am also working with Visual Adjectives. I wrote a book called Cathedral Fans Role Playing Chess. I'm sorry, I forgot downstairs. Don't tell anyone. But anyways, so I am actually one of the artists and salespeople because I like to talk and voices happen. So, but yeah.
My name is Michelle Lawrence. I am the publisher, editor-in-chief of Carved Nocturne, and Visual Adjectives is our publishing and production company. We, like Bella said, we publish books, graphic novels, magazine, children's book, basically any books. We're working on comics with our clients that, the comics that we do is almost like ghostwriting, so we really don't say this is the comic we do because people pay us to do the comic. We don't really say that we've done it. That's just what we design with our clients, and that's what we do.
Okay, now we're going to do this a little different than we did yesterday. The Visual Adjectives folks are going to do their presentations first. They'll take about 20 minutes. Then we're going to do 20 minutes with the 3 of us being goofy. And then we're going to do 20 minutes of question and answer with everybody at the table. So, without further ado,
Well, to start off, raise your hand if you've ever had an idea and wanted it to be in some way, shape, or form a piece of literature that other people could experience. Beautiful. One of the main things we love to tell everyone is a book or an idea is not a book. Your story is not a book. It is simply an idea that is intangible. You can't touch an idea. It is specifically in your head. When you are creating any form of literature to represent your idea, your story, it is simply a vehicle that allows you to get your idea through this intangible field into the mind of another person.
Hence the name visual adjectives.
Yes. So that is one of the main things that we love to tell you guys about today. We want to talk about not only just having your idea, but getting it into something, a physical manifestation of your idea, whether it be a comic, web comic, graphic novel, illustrated novel, and or just a full novel with bajillions of words in it. Who has one of these from last time? Beautiful. Nobody. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful.
Those of you who got it yesterday and didn't bring it back, you'll get another one.
Michelle, would you like me to do
Oh,
that?
yes, please, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Our lovely assistant.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, we have that, and because we have limited time for donations. So, first thing we want to go over after you get these paper, when you are creating your idea, whether it be a comic or a book or a graphic novel, whatever it is, when a reader walks into a store, there are three things that they're ever going to care about, whether consciously or subconsciously, as you're looking at your story. In your little packet thing-a-bobby, you can look on the right side and see the formula along with me. The first three things are affordability, storyline, and immersion. Lost my paper, I see how it is. Here's my paper. So, when it comes to affordability, literally, guys, what does it cost? And don't just consider the cost of your book, consider the cost of them having to get to the store, walk into the store, pull out the money, see your book specifically, want to get that book, say, hey, I'm picking this book up and walking back over to pay for it. It is not just, hey, this is how much it costs. No, there's a lot of other variables when you're thinking about how to purchase a book. Then it comes to storyline. Does your story actually matter to them? Is it a cool storyline to follow? He literally described his book as there's a person who has an imaginary friend. The imaginary friend's a serial killer. Right then, I'm already like, I need to see this book. Like, what is this about? Because this is already a super cool storyline. Then it comes to immersion. When immersion is taken into consideration, that changes vastly depending on what medium you choose to use. Is it a comic? Is it a graphic novel? Is it an illustrated novel? Immersion is how deeply can someone throw themselves into your world. If it's a comic, when it comes to immersion, it's a staggered immersion. Immersion is the main factor that will get someone to become a fan. A fan is someone who always wants to follow what you are doing, no matter what it is. Perfect example, when a Batman movie comes out, Batman has been around longer than a majority of us have actually been alive. So a lot of us have been fans before the movie came out. We're already immersed into Batman. When a movie comes out, we're like, look, whether it's good or bad, I'm most likely going to the theaters to see it. Avengers, it could be the worst movie ever. Well, but it could be a terrible movie. Well, I'm going to see it anyway. I don't really care. All they had to show was a Hulkbuster. I'm solid. Like I'm sold. I'm done going to the movies. It's Avengers Day now. So immersion that's something that is really going to change someone from a reader to a fan of your story. It starts with affordability. So someone looks at your story, oh, this looks neat. Luckily, it's only $12.50. Well, let me see, I have 20 bucks on me, I can probably get this. Then they pick it up. That's when you see them open your book. Or flip it over and they read what's on front, what's on back. That is the storyline. It's a guy with an imaginary friend who kills people. That's freaking gorgeous. I gotta read it. Then it comes to immersion. They open your book, they look at the first few pages. Is this something I want to get into? So, after you check all these things, these are your readers' criteria when they see your story. After that, when it comes to the creation process of your own work, you have costs and gains. All right, now we're going to go over the cost first. When it comes to costs, there are three main things you got to worry about: money, energy, time. If you overlook any of these, it will severely be a detriment to your entire process of creating your story. Money. When it comes to money, please, once again, do not just take into consideration the cost of creating or selling your book. If it's 12 bucks, don't just say, oh, well, cool, it's just 12 bucks to do this. No, stop. There are so many other variables to take into consideration, whether it be driving from point A to point B. If that's 10 bucks to gas, that's 10 bucks that you need to now sell to someone in some way to get back to make up for the fact that you just did that. It can be said the same way with conventions. A lot of independent comics are going to say, hey guys, I'm going to buy a booth at a convention, which could be any amount of money, a few $100, a couple hundred, whatever, and then it's getting to the booth, paying for that, paying for a lot of different things to make that independent comic sit at this booth and hope that people randomly who don't know anything about your comic care about the affordability, storyline, and immersion of your comic.
I was gonna say, also, what you want to consider, as an indie comic producer, I do a lot of research, okay? I research everything. I always have a plan A, B, C, D, all right? Backup plan. That's important because we do a lot of statistics. DC, Marvel, IDW, a lot of indie comics, when you look at the sales statistics, a lot of these comics, it's very rare that you're gonna see Bob's Comic Company in the top 5, the top 10, the top 100 comics being sold, making money. If you figure comic costs, nowadays a comic is like $4.99. When I bought comics, they were 99 cents, okay? So you're looking at a customer spending $4.99 on a comic, all right? There's some comics, no matter how much they cost, I'm going to buy them because I collect comics. So no matter what, I'm gonna buy the comic, and I always buy two of the comics. So now my price is double as a customer. However, as a producer of this comic, you have to consider the fact that, are you able to afford an artist? Are you able to afford yourself the distribution for your comic? And so you're looking at getting your comics into the store. So when it comes to money, it's on both sides. You have to really look at both sides. How many collectors are there really buying your comic? Is your comic worth collecting? Is the art that great that you're gonna collect the comics? Because people don't collect the comics just for the story, okay? Unless you're Marvel, DC, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Thor, Captain America, and you're a big fan of those comics, you're not gonna buy 2 copies like I am, okay? So you have to look at the fact that a person might buy just one copy of your comic. You also have to stop them to buy the comic. You're not gonna be in the store with your comic to stop them to buy the comic. So something has to stop them on the shelf to buy your comic. That's the artwork, okay?
Absolutely.
It's not gonna be the name of the comic or the story that's inside the comic, which is what they're gonna really look at when they open it. But in order for them to walk by and see it and go, wow, look at that.
Yep.
You know,
As opposed
that's
to
like,
other few thousand comics
yeah,
on
that's
the
like
shelves with
90%
you.
of
Why
your
are they going to stop
customers.
at yours?
And are you gonna be out there peddling yourself? You know,
You know, if you're at conventions, yes, you can peddle yourself. But as you were saying, the second that it is at any other shop that you are not, once again, your comic is amongst a few other 100 or 1,000 or however many are at the comic book store. Either way, if a person comes in with $20, what will make them walk, look at yours, stop, pick up specifically yours, care about the affordability, storyline, and immersion of your comic against all the others? You know, that is really the more difficult area when it comes to indie comics.
So the question really becomes, how do you get people to be immersed in your indie comic and get your comic to be set apart from other comics? And one of the best pieces of advice that we can give to people is to turn your readers into fans before you even have a product.
Yep.
Back to his Batman example, there are people who've never picked up a Batman comic in their life. As shocking as that is to say. There are people who've never picked up a Batman comic in their life, but Batman as a brand is so out there and it's so big that they can still be a fan regardless of whether or not they've picked up that comic. And that's something pretty amazing that, you know, DC is lucky enough to have, you know, they have 70-odd years been able to build that. But when it's in terms of being an indie comic creator, there are different ways you can get people to become fans of your product as you're developing your comic. And the internet, social media, all of that are really great tools. One of the things we were talking about yesterday was you have your options with distributing your comic. One of the greatest ways to do it is to start off as a web comic, because you can build your fans as you're going along with the story. Now that's not the end-all be-all strategy for everyone, but it's one of those things to consider. Turn your readers into fans, and then your comic will have a better way of being noticed.
Absolutely. We always want to consider the different ways to, once again, going back to affordability. There are every single different medium of getting your story out there, whether it be comic, webcomic, graphic novel, illustrated novel. They all have different affordabilities associated with them. Webcomic it's online. You type in a website and it's there. Usually, majority of the time, the webcomic is free. Versus a comic, you have to pay for it. So when it comes to webcomic, that's one of the greatest ways to truly get fans before you even come out with a comic. If you are, interested in making a comic. Going back to the thing about after costs, we go back to games. So you always want to consider these gains when it comes to what you're creating. Money, fame, and power. When it comes to money, there isn't really much I need to say. You are creating a product, you desire money. That's life. When it comes to fame, general awareness of your product. Like you're saying with the Pac-Man example, fame, he's literally, the world knows of this character. When it comes to creating a webcomic, fame is one of the greatest things you get from a webcomic. It is a consistent release of your story to the world. Hey, anyone who would like to see this, please see my story. There's, weeks upon weeks of me creating this webcomic. This is how fans are created, frankly. One of the ways fans are created. And power is the influence that your fans have. When you come to conventions and people cosplay as your characters, that's the power of your story coming to life. People are sharing your fame, the story, the idea of your concept amongst everyone.
One of the things you want to consider, because we do production in general, and we are a publisher. Growing up, I collected comics since I was a kid, so I've done pretty much everything. What we tell people, because we actually do reviews and we read their stories, we get submissions, some comics are better as books because you lose a lot of the information in translation between the comic and the actual book. This book started out as a comic. I met Edward, not him, his dad, 25 years ago in the military. We were on a military base, we had nothing else to do. We were drawing and coloring. Okay? I do a lot of the coloring. This was a comic book. Literally, sheets of paper, comic, we drew it on the comic, and we're like, we're gonna turn this into a comic book one day, all right? As we got older, I started writing. I finished 57 pages in one night of my story. He's been working on this thing for like 10 years. And he felt like an utter failure, all right? Because he never finished it. And I finished 57 pages of my one book in one night. So when we went into it and he translated this into a comic, pretty much all of the artwork we converted into actual just full illustrations. The whole book has illustrations in it. So it's not just that he was stuck with writing a novel, it turned into an illustrated novel. So he has all of his artwork still in there. Some of the artwork, and an example, if you're not an artist, you gotta think about it. Can you draw a comic? No. Can you produce a comic? No. Do you have artwork that's up to par with other artists? Okay, again, if I'm walking through a store, what's gonna stop me to read your comic? So you're looking at someone producing artwork for your book. If you can't afford it, it's just not gonna be something that's tangible. The second thing is, I collect comics, I read comics. When I say I read comics, I mean I go to Tate's, I have a subscription box, and I get my comics every single month. And every month it better be there. If it's not there, I probably won't even read it again. Can you produce your comic every month? If you can't, then that's a no. So you need to either consider your options, all right? And that's just the realism of it. I know a lot of companies, they do produce comics and you can go to them and talk to them about it. But again, you have to be realistic with the cost and what you can afford. You're not gonna come to a company and say, hey, I want a comic, and they're gonna go, great, here it is, for free. It doesn't happen. So you really have to be realistic with what you're looking at producing. Yeah, one of the guys here, actually, he works here at GeekFest. He actually started out with a comic book, and we saw the comic book, and the artwork was atrocious. All right,
Okay.
It was atrocious. Now he's doing a book. He's writing a book, and his entire story, when he told me the story, sounded great. In the comic, I did not see the story. I couldn't get it. I didn't understand what was going on. It just wasn't translated correctly to me.
Yeah, the artwork can literally stop you from understanding what your story is.
Yeah, your artwork, if the artwork isn't good.
He's sitting right here.
Yeah, so.
He's sitting right here. So, I think our time is up now.
All right, guys. They did a really good look at the business side of it, so I'm going to go exactly the opposite and start with some creative stuff.
It's always good to have both sides of the
Please,
story.
absolutely.
This is kind of interesting because I was speaking with Aaron about this earlier when we were walking around. We're going to start with Juan. Tell us the moment you knew you wanted to create books.
Oh, that's like the classic. I was a kid drawing kind of thing. Like I think my mom took me to a B. Dalton bookstore in the mall.
What's a bookstore?
I know. It's a bookstore and a mall. Yeah, that's how long ago we used to have spinner racks, EA comics. That was the only way to get comics that I got. I think it was like a Star Comics with the Care Bears and like a Madball in it or something like that, and a cracked no, it wasn't even a cracked magazine. It was a magazine called Cartoons. That was like magazine. It was like cracked for cars. So I grew up in a body shop. My dad was a body shop guy, so I was always around cars. So I just grabbed that and I was drawing cars. So because of that, I just wanted to make comics. And then Uncanny X-Men number 31 with Wolverine in the front with Hulk's head on his claws. And I was like, who's this guy with the claws? Yeah. I was like, I don't know who he is, he's just really cool. After that, I was ruined. And I have to say that like, that was one of the things that growing up, like I have friends now, and they're like, dude, you really stuck to it. Like even since you were a kid, you were like, I'm going to be a comic book artist, I'm going to be a comic book artist. Like, I really just, there was no other alternative. It was just something I really wanted to do. But I do have to admit, I did webcomics for many years. I was on GraphicSmash.com. It was one of the first big webcomic sites. You know, some of my contemporaries with Scott Kurtz from PvP and other people came out of there. You know, we started doing, you know, the web was a big deal and it opened up a lot of doors. But for me, like a couple of years ago, it was with John over there, our publisher. We met up one day and he was like, well, we print your books. And I'm like, what? Like, I've never printed my book. I don't know about that. I'm not sure. And like, let's print your books. Let's do about it. Next, you know, we're doing conventions and we're printing stuff. You know, we're putting it out there. But I made a lot of stories before that. You know, a lot of crap. I made a lot of garbage.
That's good. It's what was it? Like 1,000 bad pictures, 1,000 crappy ideas.
I'm still in that 1,000. Man.
Yeah, I saw it in there too. It's fine.
Bill's character. It's okay.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's a lot of hours of producing and making stuff. But I want to touch one of the things upon like what they were talking about and everything else. When you're dealing with format, like there's one of the things that people talk about, like digital format, print format, you know, web. You really got to do all of them because it's funny how the audience is split up. There's some people that they want it on their tablet. They don't want to go to a comic book shop. There are a lot of people that don't. Nowadays, that's the thing that we're all kind of like, oh crap, you know, because the direct market, which is what is comic books right now. Remember, comic books, what makes it different from anything else is that it became the direct market. It used to be back in the day when you had the spinner rack and everything else. You didn't sell that comic, you rip off the cover, you send it back to the publisher, they paid for it. That's what they do with magazines. They go, magazine doesn't sell, they give you 15 copies of this magazine, you sell 11, you make your money, the last 4, rip off the cover, send it back to the publisher, and you throw away the rest. That's what they were doing. The direct market doesn't do that. That's why we have back issues. Back issues are valuable because they're supposed to be valuable. Depending on that, the whole industry changed. Now with that, you can go on your tablet now. You pay Marvel $50 a year, you can get 27,000 comics and read them. Yeah. You know, so it kind of kills that back issue market unless you're a collector. That's a whole other bag. Variants are coming back, different covers on it. Yeah. There's different things like that. Webcomics is variable. I know people that make all their money on webcomics because they're able to sell shirts, their buttons, their this, and advertise it. And these are people that are coming in with 100,000, 200,000 people a day. So there's just so many aspects of it, of what you can do with your story. And we have a thing of like, when we make a story, we look at each IP, our intellectual property, as a business. Each one is its own little business. And as it makes or breaks itself. And there's sometimes there's, you know, stories that you love and you want to get it done. It doesn't happen. It sucks. And you just have to throw it away.
Same question.
Same question.
So I was at a crappy little shopping mall. I don't remember where we were out of town, and my mom had stepped into, what was the thing called again?
B. Dalton. There was Walden Books too.
It was the Walden Books.
Walden Books was the other one.
It's Walden Books at the mall. And I was wandering around looking at stuff, looking at magazines and things. There was a stack of comics. Just on the bottom shelf, like somebody was just angry they had to stock them. And I remember seeing the covers for it was Peter Parker Spider-Man 16 and 36, if I remember right. They were both JR covers. And I remember seeing like, that is so cool, like the way he did Craven jumping down at Spider-Man and everything. I started flipping through it, looking through the art, and I remember that being like, that's the one like time that sticks out in my mind that I looked at. I was like, this art's amazing. I want to do that. If you don't like JR, don't tell me because we'll fight. It's amazing.
He's awesome.
artist.
I love that.
That's right.
So
you do.
John Romita.
John Romita.
John Romita Jr. Yeah.
Okay. You're like JR. You know, he's not
Sorry,
funny.
yeah.
Hang out on the
Yeah,
weekend.
JR from Dallas. That's right. No, John Romita Jr. Yeah.